The ocean is supposed to be the scary one. That's the deal we made a long time ago. You stay on land, the ocean gets to be terrifying. The great white shark gets to be the apex predator. The Mariana Trench gets to be the unknowable abyss. The open water at 3 a.m. gets to be the thing that keeps you staring at the ceiling. We gave the ocean all of that. And in return, rivers were supposed to be safe. Or at least safer. Predictable. You can see the other side. You can stand in most of them. A river is just a smaller, calmer, tamer version of the ocean. That's how it works. That's the deal. But the Amazon River did not get the memo. Because here's what nobody tells you before you start looking into this. The Amazon doesn't have ocean-level predators. It has ocean-level predators and a completely separate category of things that the ocean could never produce. Things that are too specific, too perfectly engineered for a river environment, too adapted to murky brown water and zero visibility to exist anywhere else on the planet. The ocean has the great white shark. The Amazon has the bull shark, and the bull shark swims 2,500 miles upriver specifically to be there. The ocean has electric rays. The Amazon has the electric eel, which generates enough voltage to stop your heart. Or restart it. The same shock, different outcome, and you'd have to be genuinely lucky to find out which one you got. And then there's everything else. The things that live in the flooded forest. The things on the riverbed we've barely mapped. The species that don't have names yet because nobody's found them. So here's the actual question today. How does a river, not an ocean, a river, become the most biologically hostile environment on the surface of this planet? What does a place have to do to make the open ocean look manageable? And what exactly is living in the Amazon that we still, right now, in 2026, don't know about? Let's find out. Most people's mental image of the Amazon sits somewhere between two extremes. On one end, you've got the nature documentary version. Pink river dolphins, piranhas circling something unlucky, a caiman watching from the bank with one eye above the waterline. It's dangerous, sure, but it's organized dangerous. The kind of danger you can narrate in a calm British accent. On the other end, you've got pure myth. The river that swallows boats whole. The place where you dip a hand in and pull back a skeleton. The piranha horror movie where a school of fish strips a human being to bones in 30 seconds. Neither of those is accurate. The real Amazon is stranger and more dangerous than both. Here's the first thing you need to understand. The Amazon River is not one river. It's a system. The main channel is roughly 4,000 miles long, about the distance from London to New York. But it has over 1,100 tributaries feeding into it, creating a network of waterways that covers nearly 2.7 million square miles of South America. That's an area roughly the size of the continental United States. All of it connected, all of it warm, all of it alive. And here's where the comparison with the ocean starts to fall apart in ways you didn't expect. The ocean covers 70% of the planet's surface, but most of it is essentially a biological desert. The deep open water is cold, dark, and sparse. Real biodiversity concentrates in coastal reefs and shallow zones, which make up a tiny fraction of the total area. The Amazon River Basin contains more species of freshwater fish than the entire Atlantic Ocean. Not more than the Atlantic coast, more than the whole Atlantic. We've identified over 3,000 species of fish in the Amazon. Scientists estimate there are at least 1,000 more we haven't cataloged yet. Think about what that means. We've been studying the Atlantic Ocean for centuries. We have satellites, deep-sea submarines, sonar mapping that covers every trench and ridge. And a single river system in South America still holds more fish, including fish we've never seen, than the whole thing. That's not a river. That's an arms race. And to understand why that arms race is more dangerous than anything the ocean puts together, you have to go zone by zone. Surface first, then the river floor, then into the flooded forest, then into the territory where the science starts running out. Let's start with the creature you already know. The one that became the shorthand for deadly water in every movie made between 1978 and now. The piranha. The piranha is, simultaneously, both wildly overhyped and deeply misunderstood, which is a genuinely difficult combination to pull off. Here's the overhyped part. Piranhas almost never attack healthy humans unprovoked. The feeding frenzy you've seen in 100 action sequences, the one where someone falls in and surfaces as a skeleton, that's mostly fiction. Theodore Roosevelt famously described a piranha frenzy on his Amazon expedition in 1913. What he didn't mention was that the Brazilian guides had blocked off a section of the river and starved a school of piranhas for days before dropping a cow in, specifically to give him a good show. Cool expedition, Teddy, completely staged. So, piranhas aren't the mindless killing machine Hollywood gave you. That's the reassuring part. Here's where it stops being reassuring. Red-bellied piranhas travel in schools of 20 to 100 individuals. They have the strongest bite force relative to body size of any vertebrate on Earth. Their teeth interlock with such mechanical precision that scientists use them as a model for studying cutting efficiency. A single piranha can remove a chunk of flesh the size of a grape in one clean bite. And a school of them in the right conditions, dry season, murky water, concentrated prey, low food availability, will attack. There are hundreds of documented piranha attacks on humans in the Amazon basin every year. Most aren't fatal. Some are. But here's the part that nobody talks about. Piranhas aren't even close to the most dangerous thing in that water. They're the famous one. They're what the Amazon puts out front. The opening act designed to make you think you've understood what you're dealing with. You haven't. You're not even in the neighborhood yet. At some point, someone's studying the fish populations of the upper Amazon, deep in the interior, hundreds of miles from the coast. The kind of stretch where the river is surrounded by nothing but dense rainforest, and the nearest ocean is so far away it's almost theoretical. Found bull sharks, not one or two. A resident population, hunting, breeding, living full-time in freshwater, thousands of miles from any sea. Bull sharks are, by most serious assessments, the most dangerous sharks on the planet. Not great whites, not tiger sharks. Bulls. Great whites are the famous ones, but they mostly prefer cooler water, primarily hunt marine mammals. And when they bite a human, it's usually a case of mistaken identity. They're sampling, not feeding. Bull sharks are different. They are aggressive, unpredictable, and they specifically prefer shallow, warm, murky environments. The exact environments where humans are most likely to be. And they have a biological trick that makes them almost uniquely suited to a river. Their kidneys can regulate salt levels in real time. They can move freely between saltwater and freshwater with no apparent physiological stress. Lake Nicaragua has a permanent bull shark population. The Zambezi River in Africa has them. The Brisbane River in Australia has had documented sightings. The Mississippi River, yes, that one, the one running through the middle of North America, has confirmed records. The Amazon, with its vast warm waterways and abundant prey, has them in numbers that are still being quantified. Confirmed bull shark range in the Amazon extends over 2,500 miles upriver from the Atlantic coast. To put that in perspective, that's a longer distance than driving from Miami to Denver. You could travel halfway across an entire continent and still be sharing the water with the same species of shark that also lives in the open ocean. People bathe in those rivers. Children swim in them. Fishermen wade through them. And the bull shark, one of the 3 species responsible for the most unprovoked attacks on humans in recorded history, is present and hunting in water that is brown, completely opaque, and gives you zero visibility past your elbow. I'll be honest, after reading about the bull sharks, the piranhas started sounding almost reasonable. Now we go deeper, down to the riverbed, down to where the light stops reaching, and the Amazon starts doing things that feel less like biology and more like a threat. This is where you find the electric eel. First correction. The electric eel is not actually an eel. It's a knife fish, more closely related to catfish than to true eels. It just looks like an eel because evolution apparently has strong opinions about what a large thing living on a river bottom should look like. But none of that matters once one of these things decides you're a problem. The electric eel is the most powerful biological electrical generator on the planet. A fully grown specimen, and they reach up to 8 feet long and 44 pounds, can produce a discharge of 860 volts. A standard US electrical outlet runs at 120 volts. The electric eel produces more than 7 times that. A cattle prod typically runs at around 500 volts. The electric eel clears that too, without breaking a sweat, assuming eels sweat. But here's the detail that genuinely stopped me, and I think it'll stop you too. An electric eel's discharge is so close in electrical profile to a medical defibrillator that it can do exactly what a defibrillator does: restart a stopped heart. The voltage, the pulse duration, the waveform, all of it close enough that researchers have studied electric eels specifically in the context of cardiac resuscitation. But the same discharge, depending on timing and the state of the heart receiving it, can cause cardiac arrest in a healthy adult. Same shock. Restart or stop. You'd have to be very lucky, or very unlucky, to know which one you got. And it doesn't end there. When threatened or actively hunting, electric eels discharge in rapid bursts, up to 400 pulses per second. These shocks cause involuntary muscle contractions so severe that prey animals, and humans who've made accidental contact in the water, lose control of their limbs entirely. A person hit by a large electric eel in deep water doesn't necessarily die from electrocution. They die from the muscle spasms that cause them to drown. The electric eel doesn't need teeth. It doesn't need to be fast. It doesn't need to be large enough to swallow you. It just needs you to be wet, which you are. Very, very wet. Here's where the Amazon does something the ocean literally, structurally cannot. Every year, the Amazon floods. Not like a river flooding after heavy rain, not a few burst banks in a soggy field. The Amazon floods on a scale that challenges the basic concept of what a flood is. At peak season, the river rises between 30 and 45 feet. It spreads sideways across the forest floor for up to 12 miles on either side of the main channel. A region of rainforest roughly the size of England becomes submerged, sometimes under 20 feet of water, for up to 6 months. And every creature we've talked about follows the water into the forest. Fish swim through treetops. Anacondas hunt in water that 6 months ago was a walking path. The arapaima, one of the largest freshwater fish alive, reaching up to 10 feet long and 440 pounds, with scales so tough and interlocked that piranha teeth cannot bite through them, hunts in the submerged canopy, surfacing periodically to breathe air like a living submarine. The arapaima breathes air, 10 feet long, in the treetops of a flooded rainforest. That's just a Tuesday in the Amazon, and somewhere in that murky, impossible-to-navigate water lives the Candiru. The Candiru is a small parasitic catfish, translucent, roughly the size and shape of a toothpick. It typically parasitizes larger fish by swimming into their gill cavities and feeding on blood, which is already a fairly grim career choice. But the Candiru has a documented history of entering human body cavities. It is attracted to the chemical compounds present in urine and can follow that trail to its source with considerable accuracy. Removal, when it occurs, requires surgical intervention. This is not folklore. This appears in the British medical literature as documented case history. I'll give you a moment with that. Now, right next to the Candiru, in the same flooded forest system, lives the Amazon River dolphin, the Boto. It is pink, genuinely, visibly pink, in a way that stops feeling like an animal and starts feeling like a hallucination. The pink intensifies with age. The oldest males are almost red. They traded functional eyesight for an echolocation system sophisticated enough to navigate perfectly through the submerged forest at night, detecting objects with millimeter precision in complete darkness. Local Amazonian legend holds that the Boto is a shapeshifter, that at night it transforms into a handsome man who emerges from the river to seduce people and drag them in. Which is, honestly, the most poetic possible way anyone has ever encoded "do not go near this water after dark" into a cultural warning system. I respect it. Here's where the script hits a wall. Not because we've run out of things to say, but because science has genuinely run out of things to know. Every year, researchers publish papers describing new species found in the Amazon basin. Not new in the sense of, we knew these existed but hadn't formally classified them. New in the sense of, this animal was completely unknown to science until this calendar year. In 2023 alone, scientists described over 100 new species from the Amazon region: fish, reptiles, insects, plants. Living things that have been in that river system, completely undocumented, while we built particle colliders, mapped the Martian surface, and photographed a black hole 55 million light-years away. We've done all of that, and the Amazon still has fish in it that don't have names. We don't know the full extent of what lives in the deepest sections of the Amazon riverbed. Large stretches have never been properly surveyed. The sediment composition, the temperature gradients at depth, the full chemical profile of the water column in remote tributaries, barely mapped. We don't know the true range of bull sharks in the river system. Every few years, a confirmed sighting pushes the boundary further upriver than the previous estimate suggested was possible. We don't know how many undescribed species exist. Estimates range from hundreds to over 1,000 fish species alone still unclassified. And those are the estimates from scientists who study this full-time, with the resources to do so. And here's the thing. The fact that we don't know isn't a gap in the script. It is the point. The ocean terrifies us because of what we know is in it. The Amazon terrifies us because of what we keep finding every time we look. Every year, we look a little harder. Every year, the Amazon hands us something new. Something that's been in that water the whole time, completely unbothered by the fact that we hadn't noticed it yet. Let's zoom out and look at what we've actually assembled here. At the surface, red-bellied piranhas with the most mechanically efficient cutting teeth of any vertebrate alive, the strongest relative bite force on the planet, hunting in coordinated schools, waiting for conditions to be right. Not the mindless horror movie version, something more calculated, an animal that understands patience. Below that, bull sharks. The most dangerous sharks on Earth, living in freshwater, thousands of miles from any ocean, in water so turbid and brown, you cannot see them until the question of whether you should have gotten out sooner is no longer particularly relevant. On the riverbed, an animal that generates 7 times the voltage of a standard electrical outlet, fires in bursts of 400 pulses per second, and whose cardiac effect is close enough to a defibrillator that whether it kills you or saves you comes down to something very close to chance. In the flooded forest, a parasitic catfish drawn to urine whose removal requires surgery, swimming alongside a 10-foot armored fish that breathes air, in a pink echolocating dolphin's territory, in water that is 20 feet over what used to be dry ground. And underneath all of it, running through every zone, connecting every creature, the food chain. The real antagonist. The thing that makes the Amazon structurally different from the ocean. The ocean has hierarchy. There are things that eat and things that get eaten, and those roles are mostly stable. The great white shark does not lie awake worrying about what's coming for it. In the Amazon, nothing is entirely safe from everything else. The arapaima has scales that piranha teeth can't penetrate because it needed them. The electric eel produces 860 volts because something else in that river would eat it if it couldn't. The piranha schools because alone, it's prey. Every adaptation is a response to another adaptation. An arms race running for millions of years, in warm water, in an enclosed system, with nowhere for the pressure to go except more extreme. We are not part of that arms race. We have no armor, no electrical organs, no echolocation, no bite that matters. We have nothing that the Amazon evolved to respect. We are just food that arrived confused. The ocean has apex predators. The Amazon has an entire ecosystem that treats you like a food source. That's the sentence. That's the difference between these two places. And it's not a small one. You can build a coherent mental model of the ocean's dangers. You can learn where great whites hunt, what season tiger sharks are most active, how deep you need to dive before the pressure starts to matter. The ocean has a hierarchy you can study, map, and be afraid of in specific, targeted directions. It's vast, and it's ancient, and it contains things that would kill you. But those things have rules, and the rules are learnable. The Amazon changes every 6 months when the floodwater rises. The food chain reorganizes around the flood. The predators follow the water into the forest. The forest becomes the river. The boundaries dissolve. And somewhere in the reorganization, in the brown water between submerged tree roots and the flooded understory, there are animals we haven't named yet. Animals that have been evolving in that closed system for millions of years, under pressure from everything else in the system, getting incrementally stranger, more specific, more adapted to a world that has no equivalent anywhere else on Earth. We'll find some of them next year. We'll describe them, classify them, give them Latin names, and publish the papers. And they'll have been there the whole time, in that water, doing whatever it is they do, completely unbothered by the fact that we didn't know about them. Which is, if you think about it, the most unsettling thing of all. Not the electric eel, not the bull shark in the treetops during flood season. It's that the Amazon contains things we haven't thought to be afraid of yet. And that's the part I keep coming back to. Every ocean predator we know because it found us first, or we were brave or unfortunate enough to go looking. The Amazon is still handing us things. Every year, new species. Every year, the boundary of the bull shark range moves a little further from where we thought it stopped. The ocean is terrifying because it's vast. The Amazon is terrifying because it's alive in a way that keeps changing the answer every time you ask what's in there. If you want to see what happens when evolution runs completely unchecked in a completely different environment, check out my video on the creatures of the Antarctic Ocean, where the cold does things to biology that are, honestly, a different category of wrong. Thanks for watching.